Okay, good evening, everybody. So sorry about these little technical issues that we are having. Um, we are going to sort them as we go, but we have to start, so we do apologize about that. So welcome, welcome, welcome to our October event, our monthly the business event of the Business Book Club. This is the Business Book Club's 46th event, and it is our 5th online event. Since COVID and the lockdown, we've had to go online, but we are very excited that in December we are definitely going to be having a live event. Our November one will be online, and December will be a live event in Johannesburg. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bronwyn, and I've been working with the Business Book Club for just over 3 years now, and I absolutely love this initiative and the way it's helped a lot of people in their lives, in their businesses, and how it's inspired people to grow on all levels in their lives. So just to give you a little bit of a background about the Business Book Club, the Business Book Club was started in April 2017 with the purpose of sharing knowledge. Because what is the use of having knowledge if we can't share it, right? And we don't know what we don't know until we know. So we are doing these events to help people to learn something new and to connect with other people and to level up in their lives and in their businesses. So we are a non-profit organization. And what we do is we interview a different author, South African author, every single month at our events. I've got some of the authors up on the screen, and you can see some of our past authors that we've had. We've had some really amazing authors to date, and another amazing one this evening. I'm very excited to hear Debbie speak tonight. So yes, just a couple of our previous authors that have been with us. And we've also, through our events, we've also managed to collect over 8,000 secondhand books that we have distributed. We've distributed some of them already to libraries and areas in need where people don't have access to knowledge and to books. So there's some pictures of some of our live events, which we're very excited that hopefully soon we're going to be able to go back completely to those, to the live events. And here is Jacques, our CEO and founder, and some of our staff busy packing and handing out books and distributing books, which is the purpose of, why we exist. And lastly, we just want to thank all our amazing sponsors for making these events possible. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do this as well as we do. So we'd like to thank all of our amazing sponsors. Okay, so just to let you know, we have a brand new website, and if you haven't already, you can invite your friends and family to sign up to register on our website so that you can get all the information of our upcoming events. And you can also like us. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram and LinkedIn. You can find us there, the Business Book Club, and you can follow everything that we do there. So during tonight, this is going to be a conversation, an interview. We would like to encourage you to please ask questions that we will pose to the author throughout the evening. And you can get your questions answered directly by our author. And also we ran a competition, but we will chat about that a little bit later. I will give you the winner of our competition. So I'm not going to say anything more. I'm going to just introduce you to our host, the man behind the Business Book Club. This is his initiative. He is passionate about helping people succeed in their personal lives and in their business. He is a next level master coach who's helped more than 100 CEOs and other leaders to take their businesses to the next level and more than double their company revenues. He's dedicated to making a difference in the world and in the lives of others. So I'd like to present to you Mr. Jacques Velleman.
Oh my soul. Can you hear me now? Oh my soul. Then I spoke to myself for a while. That's amazing. That was a nice dry run. I was just practicing my speech there. So it's a good thing you guys didn't hear that first version of it. It was absolutely horrific. So here will go the new, improved, and correct version of my introduction. So Bronwyn, thank you for introducing me. Really appreciate that. And welcome everybody to the Business Book Club. Welcome to our event. Welcome to this podcast. Welcome to the show. This is where we are sharing knowledge and we are interviewing amazing authors that is just as passionate about the subject of sharing knowledge as what we are. And the purpose of tonight, you should set yourself a goal that tonight you should be walking away with at least one thing that you didn't know before you engage with us on this webinar. And tonight we've got Debbie Craig on as our author. Debbie has written 4 books. She's got an amazing story. Going through her latest book, PowerUp. I just realized that what she's packed into this book is a learning of a lifetime. And if you want to skip all the lessons and not go them through yourself, if you want to jump to almost like a good end, this is the book. This is the book to have. Debbie has really put it into a very, very concise manner. She's given some amazing tools. I mean, there's so many references in it. It's actually one of those books that you just pick a chapter and you just work through that in a month and start seeing and experiencing the changes and start working with the habits that she's obviously introducing. But a little bit more about Debbie. She's an internationally recognized people strategist. She's the founder and managing director of Catalyst Consulting. And for the past 20 years, she has been transforming organizations, teams, and individuals locally and internationally in over 5 continents and 15 countries. One of the things that really intrigued me about Debbie is that she's an international neuro change consultant, and she's worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza and on his methodology. And if you've known Dr. Joe Dispenza, his work is absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that Debbie has got insights into that, I'm really looking forward to hearing her take on it and from her experiences on neuroscience. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring Debbie into the fold. But guys, the format of tonight is we're gonna go through a bit of a presentation with Debbie. She's gonna share some of her insights and concise stories about the book, and then we're gonna open up the floor and we're gonna engage. We're gonna have a few conversations. We're gonna ask questions, and we're gonna obtain knowledge. So Debbie, can you hear me? Debbie, we can't see you at the moment. You've got your screen going on there, but I think all is good, Debbie. I think we're good to go. So Debbie, without further ado, welcome to the Business Book Club. Welcome to this opportunity to share knowledge, and thank you so much for being here and allowing us and affording us your time and affording us the insights that you have and the book, PowerUp8. But before you go into the detail of PowerUp8, Debbie, this is your 4th book. How did just give us a sense of how did this come about? Why have you written so many books, and how did you get to the title of PowerUp8? If you could just share that with us, that would be amazing. Debbie, are you still there? Hello? Sorry, guys. It seems like we've lost Debbie. We just want to see if we can get her back. Seems like she's got a bit of a bad connection. I'm not sure if she's got load shedding on her side. We're just going to check in quickly. Apologize for that. Okay, Debbie will log out and log in. Yeah, it seems like we've got a bit of a bad connection, which is a pity. This is such an amazing book. I mean, she's really packed in a bunch of stuff into it. You know, while she's logging in, I'm just going to share with you a few of the key things that I took away. So first of all, the chapter 1 is done by Raymond de Villiers. So if any of you know Raymond de Villiers, he's an amazing guy. He lives down there in Cape Town. He's a professional speaker. He's quite a digital guru.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, Debbie, are you back? We can hear you, Debbie, but you can't hear us at the moment, so I'm just going to give you a call again. There we go. Debbie, can you hear me?
Jock, can you hear me?
Yes, excellent. I can hear you.
We're back online. Thank you very much.
Sharing with the audience chapter 1 while you were busy logging in about Raymond de Villiers. He's a very good friend of mine as well, and I was sharing about it's a very good chapter on digital trends, and Raymond is quite a guru in that area. You know, every time I go to Cape Town, because he stays in Muizenberg, I go and if he is in the country, him and I go and we go for a little surf in the waves of Muizenberg and chat about digital trends. Amazing guy, very, very insightful, huge respect for him. So quite interesting that I found him in your chapter 1 of your book, Debbie. But be it as it may, please share with us the rest of your findings and what you've got to share with us in terms of your amazing book that you wrote.
Thank you so much, Jacques. And we were just talking earlier around how the book started, and it was probably about a year and a half ago, and I was invited by a friend to join at Singularity University, and we went into the first ever learning summit where we had about 56 people from 24 countries around the globe, and we were looking at how to solve the learning challenge. And there was a huge element of digital and technology and how we could do that. But there was also a huge element of learning readiness and getting people ready to be able to want to learn and have the curiosity to learn. And what would it take to build the criteria and the competencies to make that work? So both of us went home and we started dreaming about the technology side and coming up with different platform partnerships and how we could do the AI and connect people with learning. And as this all happened, we decided that, well, let's start at the beginning and let's start seeing how we can get people ready for learning and ready for the next generation and ready for this exponential change that the singularity was bringing as the digital disruption came along. And all the stuff that's in Raymond's chapter, in chapter 1, around the top technical trends really was stimulated through that amazing expansion of knowledge through the Singularity University. Now, this book all started in COVID. Just figuring out how to move the slide along. There we go. And before COVID, as we started to write the book, we were writing for a world where, yes, technology was changing and structures were changing and strategies were changing and we were reskilling. But each of those things was happening where we had time and we had months and we had sometimes years to make that change happen. Now, suddenly in the COVID period, we didn't have months and years. We had days to get to a situation where we had to pivot and be agile and turn around and suddenly work from home, homeschool our children from home, figure out how to work online technology, figure out how to earn an income, how to deal with lower incomes, how to manage health and safety, how to reduce a whole bunch of freedoms that we had and still connect with our customers, with our businesses, with our teams, and how we were going to make our value. And I don't know about any of you, but during COVID times, a lot of us were questioning our value. And all of my skills and talents of reading a room and being a face-to-face facilitator and traveling and, you know, using my charm to connect with people, all of a sudden it was written off the table and I had to figure out a whole new skill set. And so the COVID experience, it was quite influential in how the book started to come about. And, you know, Raymond's chapter was brought in during COVID. A lot more of the neuroscience was also brought in this time because I completed my Neurochange Consulting International Certification just before lockdown in February, actually. Went to the US and did the Dr. Joe Dispenza Neurochange program after a long 6 months of learning, and have continued that learning over the time. So a lot of that information around the neuroscience of change and the neurochemistry of change and why we don't change is in the book. And we've got to prepare ourselves for post-COVID. I mean, what's going to be happening? We don't know. We have to learn to live in uncertainty and not let that uncertainty and that change stress us out so much that we cannot learn and change and be productive. So this picture that's coming up now is around some days, and I don't know how you have felt, where it's like an obstacle course where there's no map, there's no end, there's just obstacle after obstacle, and some days you're just chewing mud and figuring out how to do it. But if you think about your time over the last number of months, what are the skill sets that you used to pull up and to take you through? Because you've all had amazing resilience and you've all been able to somehow survive and make it work and deal with change as well as loss, as well as total drama in the rest of the world. So we also looked at, over this period of time, the different skill sets that were expected to be important over the next 10 to 15 years. And we looked at all of the different research houses. We looked at Harvard, we looked at Singularity, we looked at World Economic Forum, we looked at EY and Korn Ferry and all of that. And they all agree that the big three are digital, cognitive, and social. I think digital is fairly obvious. We need to be able to be digital savvy, digitize our businesses, figure out how to use big data and AI and be able to present that back in a form that works and keep our security and our ethics nice and high with that. We need to be able to think differently, be creative, be innovative, do scenario planning, manage complexity. And of course, then, yes, the robots and the AI is coming, but we have a unique ability as human beings to connect and relate and manage conflict and collaborate, connect with customers, and adapt in a completely changing environment that's changing all the time. But I think what COVID brought us was a need and a recognition of how important resilience is. That ability to keep going and to balance your performance and your rest, and to have the self-confidence to fail and to pick up and to learn and to have that growth mindset, and ultimately to manage your health and your wellness and your sustainability over this time, and you and your team. So the big question we were wanting to answer is, how do we help you be relevant, resilient, and ready for that future? So we came up with 8 capabilities, and some people might call it an identity, where we could say, if you could focus on these 8 capabilities, and we're very lucky to get hold of Lita Curry, who's an amazing visual artist, and we worked with her over a number of weeks to create these characters. So we're going to cover just a couple of them just to give you a bit of a glimpse, and I think the visuals are very exciting. And there's a resilience potential survey that you can go on our website, you can do it for free, and you can get a dipstick as to how you are doing on these different things. So if you want to build curiosity, and the curiosity of things and the curiosity of people, and start to shift from being a controlled critic and someone who stands on the sidelines or in the sofa and criticizes what's going on in the field, to someone who's out there and exploring and curious and asking the questions both of people and of things in the world, and to figure stuff out as we go. And the beliefs that that curious explorer needs to have is that openness to possibility and a whole bunch of different curious questions and an absolute thirst for learning. So we're looking at the identity, we're looking at the beliefs, and we're looking at the habits. If we look at creativity, used to be for the artists. Now it's about taking the creative ideas that you might have in your mind and actually getting them onto paper, but connecting the creativity of everybody else and trends and ideas and cross-industry to come up with solutions for a really uncertain, unknown world. We need courage to fail, courage to be vulnerable, courage to deal with our own shadows and our own ways of being in the world. And we need to navigate change in a way that we don't throw the anchor down and sort of hunker down and stay in our safe harbor, but that we have a vision and we keep on going, navigating what comes at us that's completely sometimes unexpected and unpredictable, and keep on moving towards that vision and taking our team with us. The other four we look at moves to the critical thinking. So the ability to be conscious and think critically. So if you look at those pictures on the screen that's coming up now, how many of you have been struggling over COVID with having FOMO, being overwhelmed, just having too many things to do, starting to procrastinate on some stuff, doing too much of the other stuff and crashing and burning? What if we could be the wise discerner and mindful and organized and prioritized, as opposed to the distracted operator and that lovely device, the distraction monster of ours that keep us sometimes going down rabbit holes for hours at a time? How do we start managing and creating a digital awareness as to what information and what data we're taking in that's going to be useful and valuable to us and our teams around us? And therefore, how do we ask the good questions to think critically and not just make assumptions and have expedient answers when there's still a whole lot more data that needs to be gathered? And how do we simplify and create meaning for people and create a picture for people of the future? And then how do we become real, true trust cultivators and collaborate? I've been working for years with collaboration and building partnerships with people, and I've had some amazing successes, but at the same time, there's been some disasters. And it really takes an abundance mindset and an ability to win some and lose some today, but keep on believing that what you share today and what you're trying to create, building on the strengths of others, ultimately is going to bring you a win and something valuable down the line. And we really believe that we need people in the future that are contributors to the future of our country, to the future society, and building and mentoring those communities, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether it's in a network of consultants or own business owners, as opposed to doing it the what's in it for me and being a status consumer and just looking out for what I need and what's important. Now, in order for us to develop these, I'm sure you're all sitting here and thinking, those are fabulous, and I'm sure I've got a whole lot of them. There's some of them that maybe I need some work. But there's a lot of the neuroscience of change and learning that sits behind how to develop this in the book. So I've got a couple of questions now to ask you, and you'll see the answers there. So now you think about changing a habit, and how many of you have decided to try and reduce some of the lockdown layers, or decided to say no to some work, or be too busy, or be kinder to your children, or spend more time with them? And many of us will say, well, 21 days, but it all depends on the context and the routine and the regularity, because our brain works on repetition. And if we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day on average, and 90% are the same that we had yesterday, we've got a tiny window to be able to make those changes. So we have to be able to create those new neural paths until we can take something like courage or curiosity and make that the new habit and hardwire that into how our brain naturally thinks. Now, because of the stress response, 70% of what we think about is actually more negative than positive. It's a natural human behavior to threat, is to put the radar up and be nervous and be in threat response and go into our limbic system where we are into fight and flight. And you naturally, in that state, think more negatively. And if we think about wanting to change, our brain is made up of multiple neural nets. We have a neural net for love and a neural net for careers and a neural net for finances and a neural net for making change and for learning. Every single one of those are hardwired in a record of the past, and they'll keep us in comfort and safety and living as we always have been in the past. And all memories are stored as emotions, and emotions are stored as chemicals. So as soon as that stress trigger comes along from the outside world, that criticism, that email, that failure, that reduced income, that too many things going on today, a sick family member, those triggers automatically generate that stress response. And the amazing thing about being in the stress response, where we're flooding our body with the stress chemicals of cortisol and adrenaline and moving into that fight, flight, and freeze part of our brains, is that we aren't able to learn and change in that state. So we need to learn to shift the baseline and find to sort of almost lower that stress baseline so that we can have more and more capacity for taking in change and being more curious about what the possibilities are in that change, having more courage to face the fear no matter what the change is, having self-confidence to be able to do that, make good decisions and be conscious, and in that way reduce the impact of stress on our brains, our functioning, our creativity, and even our empathy and our energy. And that all of this information is in the book. It's in chapter 3 as we go through it in terms of choice and change, but it's weaved all the way through the book in terms of how it's designed. So the book is designed on 4 key aspects. So the first one, you saw the 8 identities. So those are the identities that you'll have a look. And every identity has a belief. And if you can imagine, a courageous adventurer has a belief of being brave and not afraid to fail, whereas an anxious controller has the belief of, I can't do it, I can't change, I'm scared of what people are going to say. And because of that, we feel anxious and worried and a failure versus optimistic or confident and strong. And we might keep procrastinating or holding back or worrying what other people think of me, instead of embracing learning and trying new things. So all the chapters around those 8 characteristics, those 8 identities, work through this with beautiful resources to take you through that, and particularly a whole bunch, 6 to 8 habits per chapter of things you can do every single day, very practical, very pragmatic, and a whole bunch of resources that if you'd like to delve more into, for example, how to feel the fear and do it anyway, or how to recalibrate your fear or change your baseline of fear, how that can work with you. So here's a beautiful example, high-level summary of what we'll have in the book, but also in the learning programs that support the book. So if you look, I know the writing's pretty small, but instead of the belief of the controlled critic saying it's best to stay safe and in control and in the known, which might be our default, the courageous adventurer will say, my true power lies in my authentic voice, and vulnerability is a strength, and today I choose courage over comfort. And if we can start cultivating these beliefs and creating the neural paths and the neural nets that automatically start thinking this way, we will then feel more optimistic and confident, and we will then be able to live the habits and become ultimately fearless, where we are free, empowered, agile, and resilient. And there's a whole lot of habits to be able to work you through on those. So that's in a nutshell really what I wanted to share with you. Just a little bit here around some of the workshops coming up that we will be that we have already run for a number of organizations in the days pre-COVID. We had a whole bunch of people that were able to get nice and close to each other and do some face-to-face activities and take photographs and have fun. We've just started doing some more of those now, but we also have virtual programs where we cover this, and we're really hoping to make a difference for those people in the world that are looking for more of this. And if you think about your teams and your organizations, wouldn't it be amazing if we could help every single one of them build better collaboration, better consciousness in terms of how they manage their energy and their time, more courage, more curiosity, more critical thinking, and being creative and innovative to solve for the future in a way that we can all connect and contribute to the world that we're moving into. So Jacques, I think I'm going to hand over to you, but maybe just one of the things I'd like to suggest that towards the end of this, that we make sure we've got some giveaways, and we've also got some special offers on the book and on the workshop. So you just let me know when is a good time for us to do that. And also just to end off with a big thank you to all the people that were able to make this book possible. You've mentioned Ray. There's been people who've written prefaces and has helped me build the ideas for the book. And of course, the Business Book Club team and all of you here tonight sharing and hopefully sharing this information with others. So Jacques, over to you.
Excellent, Debbie, thank you so much.
Specific aspects around how to contact us, I'm sure you will share that with the audience as well.
All right, Debbie, I just need to be clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Just wanted to double check. So Debbie, the first thing that I'm thinking about, obviously this book was written with a purpose of gearing one for the future. And we know that the future is changing dramatically. And I mean, COVID has really put a big emphasis on the fact that things are never going to be the same and they are going to change rapidly even going forward. And you've put together this book during COVID and you came up with the 8 C's. Now, to be honest with you, it almost feels a bit overwhelmed or overwhelming looking at these 8 C's and going, oh, like, where do I start? What am I? Who am I not? What should I be focusing on? Any advice for a reader of PowerUp8 of how they should think about these 8 C's in terms of, what type of strategy or approach should they go? Should they go like just read the book from beginning to end, make sure that you've got all the 8 C's covered, or how do you sort of know where to start? Because you could go like, I don't know where I want to start. They all sound good, but maybe I'm not, maybe I am them. No, just give us your take on a strategy to employ.
So Jacques, I've actually been asked a couple of times, like, what's my favorite? And it's really hard to pick a favorite, although I must say a lot of my life I've been working on courage because that is something that I've struggled with and had a lot of worry and anxiety and, what other people are going to think and criticize. So even bringing a book to bear has taken a lot of courage. So one of the ideas is to pick your favorite. But what we've done for you is we've created a survey, and it's a free survey. It's on our website, catalystconsulting.co.za. So if you go to the website, do the survey, you can quickly see, based on the questions, where you might be strong, and everyone's going to have their strengths, and where you might have some room for some further development and further thinking and exploration. And that, for me, would be a good start. And I would suggest that you start with the first 3 chapters of the book before you dive into the 8 C's, because that takes you through the technology trends, it takes you through the future skills, and it's a very important chapter on the neuroscience and the brain facts of choice and change. So that gives you a sense of what it is that you ideally want to become more hardwired that's not yet coming naturally to you. And that'll give you a steer if you don't want to do the survey.
Okay, so chapter 1 is more about the digital trends. Chapter 2 is which core capabilities do I need? And that's almost where you want to, before you go into chapter 2, you want to go onto the website, you want to do the assessments, get a good sense of where it is, then which core capabilities, and then you read chapter 3, the power of choice. And then based on that, you can actually then go and start moving towards, which one is your favorite or which one is your preference or which one draws you. And the reality is, this is about personal growth. It's not about making you perfect. It's not about anything else but personal growth. Right, Debbie?
I would say personal and leadership and business growth, because
exactly.
Each and every one of these capabilities, if you think about a small business, which many of you might be in, or a larger business, we only are going to be successful if we're curious about potential solutions for our clients. And we're only going to be able to stay sustainable if we're able to navigate change and change our value offering in this time. And if we can't manage our time and our energy, we're going to fall over or become overwhelmed and not be able to do what we need to do. So each and every one of these, although it's personal growth, is going to enable teams to perform and businesses to be sustainable and be able to be relevant into the future as well. So I would say these are definitely personal, but also business fundamentals to the people in your business.
And we know that those two sometimes dovetail. Personal growth and leadership growth, you can't have the one without the other.
Correct.
So I just want to let our audience know, for those of you on Facebook, please feel free to comment on Facebook. We'll get the answers through here on our webinar. For those of you directly on the webinar, please feel free to engage with us, ask your questions, ask maybe anything. ask me anything, and we'll try and answer that as good as we can. But Debbie, before we go and look at some of the questions that might be coming through, is your book is about obviously the 8 A's, and there's a lot of resources and tools that you've developed to take one through. I mean, there's there's videos, there's blogs, there's a lot of stuff. But one of the key things that you brought up is habits, and habits is a theme through your 8 C's. What's your advice for anybody just on the habit aspect?
In order for us to change how life is, and one of the big questions to always ask ourselves is, what are we happy with in our lives and what is going well, and what are the things we'd like to change? And if we go a little bit deeper in the things that we'd like to change or get better at or have a better quality of life or a better feeling about, in order to create those habits, we need to, or create those behaviors, we need to create the habits. In order to create the habits, we need to create the thinking. So, the Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff you mentioned earlier on talks about with those 60 to 70,000 thoughts that we've got every day, we need to start becoming more conscious of those thoughts, and we need to build habits to become aware and build what we call metacognition, which is observing ourselves, thinking and doing and being, and catch ourselves in default behavior that is not productive for us and taking us away from our goals rather than taking us toward the goals. So it's habits of thinking, it's habits of beliefs we have about ourselves and catching and shifting those habits, and then it's habits of doing. So if we can set some routines, just like you would have a routine of having a good breakfast or being on a diet or going for an exercise program, we need to have habits of beliefs, habits of thinking, and habits of doing. So I would really encourage you to build routine, because where we want to change our habits, it says 18 to 254 days. When you build a routine at a similar time, similar day, similar context, and you do that every single day, the minimum time it takes to create the new neural path, and then in future the neural net to become hardwired, minimum is 18 days. And we have to do that every day to create those neural paths. And what's fascinating about this work is you can actually see the neural paths becoming hardwired in the brain with the lovely brain scans that we have these days. So once you know that information, you know that everything you're doing is actually helping you to build your future self.
Excellent. And Debbie, I mean, you've obviously worked with a lot of clients. Which one of these C's do you find is the most common that people want to work on?
Well, Jacques, we've done a number of workshops on these, and we've done a number of webinars over COVID on these 8 C's. So I would probably say out of all of those that we've done, and we've probably touched over 500 people at least, the one that comes up as the most challenging for people is conscious. And that ability to deal with overwhelm, with distraction, with false news and conspiracy theories, and being able to know what to say no to, what to say yes to, how to structure your life, how to balance work life and home life, how to not to get sucked into that black hole, and learn to become mindful and conscious of how we spend our time and our energy. And what do we become conscious of what we're taking into our body, whether it's data, whether it's food, whether it's information, whether it's stories, whether it's thoughts. That seems to be the most difficult one. Okay.
And I guess that's quite a relevant one, because, conscious is, I'm assuming is in your context is a lot like mindfulness. So it's being aware of what you're doing and what you're not doing. Is that correct?
That is correct. And then following that through with the behavior, which is around planning, prioritizing, choosing, and having the assertiveness to be able to say yes and no to the things that are going to get you to where you want to get to, which is the discipline. So it goes beyond mindfulness into organization and discipline.
And which habit would you recommend to me? So if I had to do the survey, I was maybe one of your clients, and we came up that conscious is my thing to work on. What is the, and I could we just have enough time for one habit. You've got like 30 seconds to share with me one habit and what to do with it. Which one would you recommend is a good habit to work on with conscious on consciousness?
It's really hard to give me one, Jacques. But probably in this day and age, I'll probably go with digital detox, and be able to create that space and that time, combining digital detox and putting the devices down for a bit with mindfulness, and being able to stop and pause, and particularly go into the alpha state, which is a brain state, which is your highest learning and relaxation state, where you naturally put yourself into the creative state rather than the stress response. And in that state, you can calm yourself down and you can build your resources and your vision for the future and start becoming a lot more focused and organized when you do that. So a combination of digital detox and mindfulness with alpha state.
Okay, so digital detox I get. Now, have you got in your book tips and tricks and tools for me to get into the alpha state? I mean, because last time I checked, I didn't come with a manual, so I'm not exactly sure where the button is. But if your book has got the tools and the tips for me to get into alpha state, I'm buying 6 tomorrow.
Yes, Jacques, it does. It's got not just tools but resources. So it'll give you a summary of 3 different techniques to get into alpha state: the Hakala technique from Hawaii, the mindfulness finger exercise, and then it's also got a whole lot of resources on Google in terms of videos and self-help guides, so that you can find your own natural way of doing that.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the alpha state is actually the state Einstein referred to it a lot, Edison did it, Da Vinci, they got themselves in these alpha states through, if I remember the story about Edison, he slept with the ball on a chair, and then when the ball fell, he went into he got into the alpha state, the ball fell, woke him, and then he got the ideas to develop the light bulb. Have I got the story right?
Absolutely. Well, all of those big inventors and big names in making new things happen have accessed that alpha state in various different ways. And if you speak of the big gurus of today, the Don Quixotes and the Tony Robbins and the Joe Dispenzas, they are doing that on a regular basis, every day, in fact, daily, because it's been shown more and more that if we accessing our alpha state and we're moving our focus from the limbic system into the prefrontal cortex and even further into the frontal lobe, we are able to actually create visions and align how we see the world to generate opportunities towards those visions. And that is why you see so many successful athletes and leaders and people that are building their own businesses. Many of them will spend time in mindfulness and in alpha state to be able to create a reality, because our minds do not know the difference between imagination and reality. So we can actually, and there's plenty of studies around that, where you can make it so much more effortless to move towards your goals in that way.
Okay. Now, Debbie, one of the things that I'm thinking about, as we go through this, you and I are both, positive people. We walk around with a glass half full. But what do we do in scenarios where people have a glass half empty? Their context isn't that great. I mean, we can think about COVID. Not everybody has been lucky to necessarily get out of COVID, intact, with all their loved ones still around them, with all their jobs still in place. So there are folk with, circumstances that are less than great, and definitely less than what they had in the beginning of the year. How does your book help them? Or is there a different process that they have to go for before they can really, get to grips with your 8 C's?
So it's a very good question, Jacques. And I mean, I feel for so many people, and have done over this period, that really are struggling. Some very close friends of mine are really, really struggling over this time, and I've spent a lot of time with them. And I think wherever you are on your journey, whether you're just starting out on your journey, whether you are coming out of something and becoming to start having a view of the world, whether you're still down in the dumps, wherever you are, you start with identifying where you're at. And if you can have the intent to want to shift, even if it's just a tiny little bit, we've got to be able to help people have a vision for the future and have hope. So no matter how bad things are, if we can get a sense of ourselves that there's hope to take the next step, And we're not asking people to go from depression or sadness all the way up to inspired joy. If we can just move to acceptance of what is, if we can just move to hope, if we can just move to taking the next step, it's all about cultivating the belief and the emotions and the thoughts that are going to take you to that next step. So I don't think it's only for people that are the glass half full. I think it's for anybody that wants to take that next step.
Okay. So, I mean, my final comment to those of you listening and those of you who have joined us tonight, you know, at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes we've got friends and people in places that aren't necessarily ideal, but they don't know how to get out of that. And maybe what they need is just a bunch of, you know, a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of, you know, just trying something out. And what I really, really enjoyed about Debbie's book is the fact that it is extremely well filled with good, solid resources. There's videos for those who are visually inclined. It's got good reading material of stories. And what it does is it actually sparks your mind to think differently. You know what Debbie said right in the beginning about it all starts with a thought, and then it transfers into behavior. So if you want to start with a thought, I can really recommend is to start with Debbie's book, PowerUp8, because that's where the thinking starts, because she's giving you access to stories, she's giving you access to thinking, and through that, there's an opportunity for change. You know, and it's the old adage, you know, you could take a horse to the water, but you cannot make them drink. You can support people as much as you can. I think this is an excellent way to support people, to give them tools, to give them just a different way of thinking and analyzing their situation, and just to know that there is a different path and there is a different way. And I mean, Debbie, you and I are both big fans of Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work in the field of neuroscience. And it is really about creating a vision of the future, because otherwise you will just turn back and you'll repeat the memories of the past. So creating this future, you can only, the trick with that is you're creating something that doesn't exist. And that's the only way for it to exist. And the only way to get that right is to start to think differently. And books is your answer to think differently. That's why we have the Business Book Club. It is an opportunity to make change in people's lives. And it all starts with knowledge. So Debbie, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with us tonight, with sharing your knowledge so openly and being so graceful about it. Thank you so much. I'm going to allow you to chat to the people about what you have on offer and on special, and then Bronwyn will come back in, because we have got a winner tonight of 2 of your books. This is one, and then there's another one, I Am, if I've got the title right there, Debbie.
I Am Talent, yes.
I Am Talent, excellent. And Bronwyn will then share with us more about who that is. So Debbie, some final words from your side.
Well, just thank you everybody for being here tonight and supporting Business Book Club and the wonderful work that they do, and for supporting South African authors that are bringing stuff into the world. And I would love to be able to share this work as widely as possible. So just a little bit around the books are going to be available. We'll be sending the links out to all of you. It's through Knowledge Resources. There's also on Amazon.com, as well as on our website, Catalyst Consulting. And we are running our first virtual programs in November. And there's going to be a 50% COVID discount for that. It's 2,500 Rand for 16 hours of fabulous training over 4 weeks. And we're also going to offer a 20% launch discount for any bookings for teams that happened this year for 2021 if they're booked and secured by end of November. And the launch discount for the price of the book now till the end of November is less 20%. 236 Rand. So I hope that gives you enough, and lovely to hear from you if you want to know more.
Excellent. Awesome, Debbie. Thank you so much for that. Bronwyn, back over to you.
Hi, can you hear me, Jacques?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. So we have a winner of the 2 books. The other one is I Am Talent. And the winner is Moira Rogers. So Moira, we've got your details. We will get hold of you to give you your 2 books. Well done.
Excellent. Well done, Moira.
And then our next event is happening on the 3rd of November. We have an author for that's lined up. Jacques, shall I tell them who it is?
Absolutely. Share the knowledge.
It will be Mike Saunders, and his book is called Human Centric. So we will send out the details of that very, very soon, hopefully by the end of this week. And then in December, we will have our live event with an amazing author that has been with us before, but I think we'll keep that a surprise.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I look forward to the glass of wine book launches rather than the virtuals, eh?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next month.
And keep on sharing the knowledge. Thanks for being there.
Cheers. Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks a lot, Debbie.
Bye.